Testing, mic check, 1, 2. Testing, mic check, 1, 2. Mic check, 1, 2.
effort to include more folks that would like to watch the presentation at home. So for those of you who are live streaming, welcome. So tonight, you can expect a brief presentation regarding this project. There will be a Q&A time. We do ask that you hold your questions until we reach that moment in the presentation. Each person is going to have 3 minutes. I do have a countdown timer available just on that table to the left. Please state your first and your last name for the record, and every comment and question is going to be documented by our court reporter, Heidi, who's here tonight helping us out. So, yeah, thanks, Heidi. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get things started. I'll hand it off to Matt Bradley, who is the project manager.
Thank you, Cassie. Welcome, everybody. Before we get into this presentation, we do have a message from our director, Christina Swallow.
Hello, and welcome to the State Route 160 and 159 Corridor Study Public Information Meeting. I'm Christina Swallow, Director of the Nevada Department of Transportation. Our mission is to provide, operate, and maintain a transportation system that enhances safety, quality of life, and economic development throughout Nevada. NDOT also coordinates with local and regional agencies to keep our state's roadways safe and connected. As our valley grows, traffic continues to increase on State Route 160, primarily due to ongoing growth and development along the corridor, especially within Pahrump and Southwest Las Vegas. Recreational activities along State Route 159 are also increasing, which means that we need to look at how we move everyone, people in cars, people on bikes, and people walking safely to where they want to go. At NDOT, we are committed to enhancing safety and mobility on State Routes 160 and 159. We have partnered with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, Clark County, Nye County, City of Las Vegas, and other stakeholders to study these two important corridors. We look forward to developing recommendations for how to continue to operate these roadways safely and efficiently as the region continues to grow. Thanks for joining this meeting, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts about the corridors.
So again, welcome everyone. Kind of a little outline or agenda for what we're going to be talking about this evening. The study purpose and goals, schedule, existing conditions, public input on priorities and concerns, and then actually we'll talk about a couple other things, and then we'll hop right into the Q&A. As Director Swallow had mentioned, this is in partnership with the City of Las Vegas, Nye County, Clark County, the State Police, Nevada State Police, BLM, and then RTC of Southern Nevada. So starting off, obviously the purpose of these meetings is to provide a little bit of information, but also mainly to gather public input, especially regarding those concerns and your priorities for these corridors. In addition to public input, we're getting input from our stakeholders, and they're going to be providing information and input as well, whether it be county, city, federal involvement. So in this study, as was reflected on the previous slide, we are going to look at short-term goals, long-term goals that can be identified as part of needs of this study. So that's the first part that we're currently in right now, the planning stages. We will move through environmental, design, and construction stages on any project moving forward, but at this juncture we are simply in the planning process. We're not actually designing anything at all. Again, so we're right here in this first box. We started the study in December of 21. We're now holding the first public meetings. Coming up next, we have the vision development, so we'll analyze all of the data and put our feedback from the public, along with all of our data and needs identifications, to start developing those visions, and then we'll come back out for another public meeting in late fall. And then we're looking on wrapping up the study in winter of this year. So the project limits are the eastern terminus of the study is at Windmill and South Las Vegas Boulevard, and then State Route 160 will extend all the way through Pahrump out to Roadrunner Road. Originally, we were going to stop in Pahrump, but after speaking with some stakeholders, we did go ahead and extend that up to Roadrunner. And then for State Route 159, we're actually, the northern terminus is at Charleston 215, and then that extends southward to the intersection with State Route 160. So we're taking a look at that entire loop area. So some of the things that we do look at as part of the corridor study, we are looking at the composition of the roadway, how it's built, and obviously parts of this roadway are very different than others. So we make sure that we find out exactly what the corridor is comprised of. Now we also, on a later slide, will show that we're looking at the shoulders, striping, the sidewalks if they are present, because all of that obviously is taken in consideration as well. And we are doing it more or less with State Route 160, the urban portion, which would be in Las Vegas, the rural portion, which would be in, well, everywhere, everything in between Pahrump and Las Vegas. Then we have 160 in Pahrump, and then 159 outside of town. And basically we're kind of just separating like that because they're all going to behave a little bit differently, and they serve different purposes. This slide that we're looking at right now, this on the left is a heat map of crashes that have occurred, and this data is from January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2019. So we have a full 5 years of data, and as you can see, there are certain hot spots on 159 itself where we can identify that there are areas more prone for vehicle crashes. And on the right, there are pedestrian and bicyclist crashes. And we do have that, you may not be able to see it super well, but we do have that up on one of our boards behind me. On the next slide, we have the heat map for, this is actually in the town of Pahrump. So obviously you can see right at 160 and 372, there's a big hot spot there. But in addition to, or much like the previous slide, you can see that there is some data for bike ped on here as well. Sorry, lost my mind. There it is. And then this is I'm sorry, this is the actual bike ped map for this particular area. So then when we move to the rural, again, this is the heat map. You can see coming through the Mountain Springs area. And bear in mind that this is information from before the project and then after the project was completed with 160 widening. So we can see that there was still an issue through the Mountain Springs area. However, once we've divided the data, you'll be able to see the improvement for crash reduction in that small segment. And then of course here we have Las Vegas, and this has a lot more hot spots, more throughout the entire corridor, but it also has a lot more traffic. But there are a larger number of crashes in this urban area. This one again, this is a pedestrian bicycle map indicating where crashes have occurred involving. This This table, this is important, and obviously you don't have to write these down, remember these, but it does point out, we are looking at fatal crashes, fatalities, we're looking at severity, whether it's bike, ped, multimodal, but the key thing to take away here too is the animal crashes, they weren't necessarily indicated by a little triangle or a little red circle on those previous maps, the previous images, but it is important to keep in mind that there are a large number of animals in this area, and we do our efforts to make sure that we can have wildlife crossings as appropriate. So if that's a concern of yours, obviously, we welcome those comments as well. For potential development areas, we have identified certain areas we understand that are going to be experiencing a different sort of growth through either residential or commercial. Here we can see that there's a number of that are simply in Clark County. The one exception to that would be that Silverton Hotel that's proposed to be over by the Speedway. But we're taking a look at these areas as well, just because it's important to know what this corridor needs to do in the future and what the requirements of the public are going to be. As I mentioned before, as we're looking at corridor conditions, we do also have the multimodal concerns, and you'll see here we have a little bit of data pertaining to ADA shoulder widths and a little bit of public transportation information. So those are additional items that we are taking a look at to determine if any changes need to be made there or if the public's recommending anything. Recent and upcoming improvements, I did just mention obviously the State Route 160 widening. So that has already taken place. We do have the State Route 159 loop trail that's being handled by Central Federal Lands. That's a FLAP project, and that's currently in development and discussions. And then the 160 Bella Vista intersection is something the department's currently working on. And then in 24-25, the State Route 159 mill and overlay from the entirety of our study, which would be up at 215 all the way down to State Route 160. In addition to not only the physical characteristics of the corridor itself and the surrounding area, we are taking a look at mobility concerns, congestion, and delay, in addition to the crash data that we just observed. But we want to make sure that we are taking a look at how it's performing, how we need it to perform, obviously, and then, of course, your input is very important because we need to know what your thoughts are on the performance. In addition to taking a look at the corridor overall and the surrounding area, we are taking a look at specific intersections throughout the entire length of the corridor. And again, as I had mentioned, where we had extended the project out in Pahrump from 372 out to Roadrunner, we did go ahead and add some intersections out there as well that were identified as need. And we've done so with the majority of the intersection you'll find along the corridor throughout Las Vegas itself. So obviously you've been told when you came in or if you've seen online that we do have a survey that we're asking you to take. And again, you can take that in paper format. You can do it online. We have a website at www.ndotsr160.com. And there you'll also be able to find the information that we're presenting this evening as well. And you'll want to make sure that you can do your comments and taking the survey before April 27th. So it'll be open for another few weeks. So in thinking about what your primary concerns may be, and in a subsequent slide, we're going to talk about your priorities. But those are going to, as some samples would be your safety, the access, the operation, and then of course multimodal concerns. So up here's a little bit of thoughts that you may have. Maybe for access, there's too many driveways, too many intersections. So maybe that's a concern for you. Maybe it's a priority. But those are things that you can just bear in mind that we're collecting that information from you. So don't be shy when you have some comments or you feel you have some input you would like to bring forward. Coming back to this, we are in the first step. Once we have done vision development, we will be coming, like I said, coming back out to everybody in the fall. And so we'll be presenting again and looking for your feedback and comments at that time as well. Well, I just mentioned all this stuff, but I'll do it again. The meeting is at n.sr160.com. We're looking at coming back out in fall of 22. There's my telephone number, 775-888-7466. And then, of course, the email for this study is info@n.sr160.com. So I'm going to jump ahead real quick. This was the other slide that I was referring to. Obviously, there was concerns, and these are priorities. Again, safety, access, operations, capacity, multimodal considerations. So perhaps you have a vision or certain priorities that you would like to point out to us today. And again, we welcome those comments, and we certainly appreciate anything that you can provide us with. So thank you.
So now we're going to get into our question and answers session. Please don't be shy. Come up to the microphone, state your first and your last name for the record, along with your comment or question, and you have 3 minutes. So I welcome anybody to step on up to the mic.
Hi, my name is Philip Allery, and my main concern is with 159. Since I'm a cyclist, I use it probably 3 or 4 times a week. The first comment I'd like to make is that as you get started on it, at the intersection of Sky Vista and 159, there was a fatal accident there this past Sunday. And that intersection needs a blinking light prior to getting to that intersection to allow people to know that one of those lanes ends. A lot of times the people that live there knows that it's going to end, but tourists that are coming end up trying to go from the right-hand lane to the left-hand lane at the very last second. It also needs some line-specific lineage for cyclists, knowing to tell cars that they have to yield and that there's going to be people merging from the bike lane going into 159. So it needs a flashing light and signage, and also line-specific on the roadway telling cars to yield. Also, I think it'd be a good idea on 159 to also have bot dots along the line, so when people are texting in their cars and they swerve into the bike lane, at least they'll catch it when they hit the raised dots. I think that's a relatively inexpensive safety feature that can be added. I saw that it's going to be completely repaved in 24-25, but that can be easily added prior to that. Also, I'd like to comment that 159 is an incredible asset for Las Vegas, and it's a great scenic highway that should be used as an asset, and there should probably be more parking area, specific places for cars to park and pull off, as well as possibly when it's repaved in 24, 25, widening the bike path. Oh, my time's up. But I'm Ted Cruz, and I'm going to keep talking.
All right, well, thank you very much for your comments. Those are really nice.
Thank you. My name is Paul Cooney, C-U-N-I, and I am the leader of a hiking group walking Las Vegas. We often commute this area to get to Red Rock and other hiking areas around town. I'd like to draw your attention to two intersections on 159. As you leave town, you've got the intersection with Calico Basin Road and the intersection with Red Rock Canyon, the entrances and exits. Often, I would make sure your study identifies that area during peak time Saturdays, peak times of the year. The traffic there is often considerably different than it is during the week or other times of the year. You will see people make very poor decisions because these are uncontrolled intersections. There's no signal. There's sometimes barely a very short turn lane getting into Red Rock Canyon when the traffic has backed out onto the state highway. Additionally, on Calico Basin, people are trying to pull out into the state highway and make a left, and they get tired of waiting for the traffic and they just whip out in front of people. So I would ask for additional traffic controls be studied in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tim Jones, also from Las Vegas. I'd like to add, just from the comments that were made on traffic controls, as you get to the Red Rock Overlook, that also is a place where there's a lot of turnaround that needs some control, and also probably out at Bonnie Springs, although maybe not so much commercially, but I guess there's some new neighborhood development going in there. It could be a factor. The other point I'd like to see is you develop a recreational lane, bike lane, whatever you might want to call it. It needs to have a bona fide physical separation from the vehicle traffic. So it needs to have a wide buffer lane, I think like a rumble strip, maybe even the posts that are, break-off posts, those type of things that will give a bona fide separation between the recreational lane, biking and walking lane from the vehicle traffic lane.
Thank you. So again, I do appreciate and I thank you guys for your comments. I will let you know that from what we've heard over the past couple days, and I'm sure will be reflected tomorrow at our next meeting, our final meeting for this round. But you're not the only ones with those thoughts. The bike lane around 159, the problems with certain traffic and being able to use having bikes and vehicles on the same right of way. So your comments, your thoughts, your concerns, those are all mirrored with other people. So we are obviously collecting all that, and we'll make sure that we can account for that. So I very much appreciate you guys' comments tonight. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add very quickly, we are accepting comments through April 27th. Along with these 4 in-person meetings, we're doing a virtual meeting at n.sr160.com. We've also got some QR codes on some of the boards here that'll take you right there. This presentation is also up there if you'd like to take a closer look. Think about your comments more and submit them via the website. You also should have received a comment form, a physical copy. And if you just like to talk, you can go up to our court reporter, Heidi, and deliver a statement that way for the public record. And I think that about does it. So thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your feedback. And thank you for those who joined us on the live stream.